Hi, my name is Drew Locher. Welcome to our series, Value Stream Mapping Tips and Tricks, Episode 6. This is the final episode of the series. In the fifth episode, we concluded our discussion on future state mapping. To recall, we dedicated 3 episodes to future state mapping. It has been our experience that this is the largest gap in the practice of value stream mapping as an improvement methodology. Back in Episode 1, I described the numerous maps that I am asked to review for people, often with poorly designed future state maps or none at all. In this episode, we will provide tips and tricks for achieving the future state. A future state map that is never implemented is a real possibility. After all, mapping alone doesn't change anything. It is when actual change is being made that the rubber hits the road, as the saying goes. That is why continuing to gain agreement, not just within the mapping team, but the organization as a whole, is so important. The implementation of the future state can be quite overwhelming for the mapping team. 8, 10, 12 major initiatives will have been identified. So where to begin? Prioritizing the initiatives will help here, as well as developing a plan identifying what, who, and when. We will expand on these tips and others throughout the episode. An important tip is to consider identifying loops, segments, or chunks of the value stream. Several terms are used to mean the same thing here. This certainly should be considered when mapping more complex value streams. We'll use the term loops for our discussion today. For more complicated value streams, it might be helpful to identify several loops on the future state map. There's usually no single way to identify a loop. Often they are segments of flow within the value stream. An examination of the future state typically reveals several natural loops. The loops can then be prioritized, as well as the improvement initiatives identified within a loop. For example, it may be advantageous to prioritize the loop closest to the customer, so that the customer can experience the benefits from the efforts undertaken more quickly. In other cases, it may be prudent to prioritize a loop towards the beginning of a value stream, due to quality issues that originate there. Still another example, a particular loop may be the priority since it represents the constraint to greater throughput or shorter lead time. Identifying and prioritizing loops can help the team and the organization to gain valuable focus with regard to the implementation approach. Here are some guidelines with regard to prioritization. Generally speaking, you always want to address significant quality issues first. A value stream will not be able to flow effectively and efficiently if quality issues exist. The development of new or revision of existing standard work can be a countermeasure here, as well as any mistake proofing that can be included in the standard work and the process itself. Next, address impediments to flow, particularly at the points in the value stream where it is creating excessive lead time or limiting throughput. Add a constraint, as is often referred. Quick changeover, total productive maintenance, or TPM techniques can be effective countermeasures in a manufacturing environment that can free up hidden capacity and allow for vastly improved flow. In an office or service environment, it can be as simple as providing cross-training in a particular area to add capacity. In general, we always say establish flow first. Building on this guideline, it may be necessary to change layouts to promote flow in both manufacturing and office and service environments. This tends to represent more significant physical changes, and because of this, more time, planning, and preparation will be needed. The benefits from the first 2 points will greatly help if and when layout changes are necessary to further improve flow. We also say where you cannot flow, apply pull. Now, there may be times that implementing pull systems comes before implementing flow. Remember, these are general guidelines. For example, let's say that delivery to the customer is an issue in the current state, and it isn't a problem with capacity, but rather difficulties with scheduling. Then, a well-designed pull system can provide much improved service to the customer and should be given highest priority in the implementation plan, perhaps doing it concurrently with efforts to improve quality issues. Once service has been improved, the organization can work on improving flow. The pull system will then need to be adjusted to reflect the changes made in internal lead time. Last, sources of an unlevelness if they exist, should be addressed. This typically takes some time to address as the organization begins to understand the causes of it. There are basically two options in the meantime: buffer with increased inventory in a manufacturing environment, and buffer with additional capacity in both manufacturing and office and service environments. Both can be included in the design of the pull and flow systems previously described. The time and effort it takes to address unlevelness will depend on the nature of it. At times, addressing unlevelness is left to the second future state. Yes, there should be a second, a third, and possibly more future states over time if we practice continuous improvement as we should. We can apply the concept of leveling to the implementation itself. The organization should guard against trying to make all the changes envisioned in the future state all at once. We tend to suggest 3-month buckets. What 2 to 3 initiatives can be accomplished in the first 3 months, the second 3 months, etc. Leveling the implementation can greatly increase the rate of success. Once ideas for prioritization have been agreed upon, an implementation plan can be created. Nothing fancy here, just develop a plan with what, who, and when. What is the objective of each major improvement initiative? Who will head it up? What resources will be needed to implement it? When can it begin? When can it be expected to be in place? The process of thinking through all of this adds another layer of clarity for the team. I have used this expression in earlier episodes. It is important that the mapping team has a sufficiently deep understanding of what the future state map depicts, as well as the improvements they are recommending. This will be important as they continue to socialize the maps and now the implementation plan. Once the plan has been developed, it should be shared with other members of the organization who will be involved and affected by the changes being considered. People want to know about forthcoming changes that affect them. They also may have valuable input to the plan, all the more reason to share it with people. Here is an example of an implementation plan. Again, nothing fancy here. I would like to point out the third column. The team should be clear on what the measurable goal or goals are for each initiative. Will the effort reduce lead time by a projected number of days? Improve quality to a certain percentage yield? We find this helpful to remind ourselves of the series of hypotheses that the future state represents. If we implement this idea, new process or system, what do we expect will be the measurable result? This also helps others in the organization understand not just what we will be doing, but why we are doing it. Something to look for also is too much is falling on one person's shoulders. I am typically alarmed if I see the same person's name on multiple initiatives. I will often ask if another person might head up or be a resource for an effort, if it appears that the plan may be overloading a particular individual. A lot of energy is created during the actual mapping exercise. The team and the organization as a whole must maintain this momentum. This falls mostly on the shoulders of the value stream manager. As we discussed in an earlier episode, the proper person must be selected for this role. First, the value stream manager must set up a regular meeting time with the team of people responsible for implementing the future state. Getting the team together every 1 or 2 weeks is typically sufficient. This sets a cadence to the implementation. After all, implementing the future state is work, and like any form of work, we try to set a cadence to it. Next, the value stream manager should set up a regular meeting time with senior management. This allows for regular communication as well as a means to escalate any issues that are encountered during implementation. To recall, we are typically looking for radical improvement when applying the value stream mapping methodology. This means significant changes in the organization. Even with all of the socialization that we have discussed in this and previous episodes, turf paddles can still occur. Everyone can agree when it's just a map and a plan. Resistance more typically occurs when the real work begins and changes are being made. The value stream manager must escalate any political issues that may arise. Other obstacles may also arise that are more material in nature. Lastly, it is very important to establish the new management system early during the implementation of the future state. It can be used to manage the transition, to communicate progress to members of the organization, and to measure actual results. The management system can be particularly effective if visual management techniques are used. The management system can be used to identify new issues that are certain to arise when changes are made. Associates can identify them to their colleagues and the value stream manager as they are identified. Adjustments can be made as necessary. The fact of the matter is the extended team, those affected by the changes being made, must learn their way to the future state. Each major initiative will be implemented through a series of experiments, a series of Plan, Do, Check, Act, or PDCA cycles. The value stream manager should make this fact clear to the people involved. This will better set people's expectations throughout the implementation of the future state. People must also understand that the future state is a working document. It represents a series of hypotheses. Only through actual change, actual experimentation, can these hypotheses be proven or disproven. In other words, the future state is subject to change throughout the implementation phase. In addition, new ideas may arise during the implementation. These should be discussed by the team, and if agreed upon, the future state map revised to reflect them accordingly. Too often, we have seen organizations view the future state map as a static document, unchanging. Keeping with the spirit of experimentation, this team should always be looking for opportunities to apply the concepts under consideration when they arise. This is particularly important when the value stream involves project-type work, as is found in development, engineer, or design-to-order businesses, just to name a few. The team should not attempt to first prepare all of the changes and then apply to a single project. They should identify a project that is in a particular stage of the value stream that a concept can be applied to so that an experiment can begin. A different concept might be applied to a different project, and so on. In this way, the learning from the experimentation does not have to be delayed, waiting for all of the changes to be readied. The learning can begin quite quickly. Staying the course is important throughout the implementation of the future state. It is quite easy for the team and the organization as a whole to move on to some other pressing issue or initiative of the moment. The value stream manager must maintain the team and organizational focus. A periodic reminder of the importance of the purpose and the potential benefits may help here. I found that very helpful in my own experiences. Measuring the impact is critical as well. It is a big part of the check of Plan, Do, Check, Act, or PDCA. Positive results can serve as strong motivation for the team to see the future state implementation through to its completion. It can also help to bring late adopters, those who have been skeptical about the changes all along, help to bring them along. Negative results can prompt reflection and adjustment. Metrics should be part of the new management system. A word of caution here. Expectations for measurable change must be reasonable. If the undertaking involves reducing the lead time from 2 years to 1, as it can be for more complex value streams such as development, it will take some time to measure the results. Results cannot be expected overnight or even within a few months. Similarly, for less transactional or less repetitive value streams, more time will be required to gather the necessary data to measure the results. For more variable value streams, a larger data set and therefore more time may also be needed to truly measure the impact. In other words, patience is sometimes needed. That brings our final episode to a close. To summarize, we should apply the lean concept of leveling to the implementation of the future state. Prioritization should be done as well. To recall, identifying and prioritizing loops or segments of the value stream can really help here. The team will gain another layer of clarity as they think through and develop the implementation plan. Such clarity is important to successfully implementing the future state. Next, the future state map should be considered a working document. It will, in all likelihood, be revised during the implementation phase. This is totally acceptable and expected. Implementation of the future state should be considered a series of experiments. The spirit of experimentation should be encouraged throughout. The expectation that it will take several PDCA cycles to implement a particular concept or initiative should be made clear to everyone. Finally, follow-through is critical. I have personally seen too many future state maps that were never fully implemented. Mapping is the easy part. Implementing radical improvement in an organization is the real challenge. We hope that you found this series beneficial. As I mentioned in the first episode, the intent was to provide tips and tricks for practitioners and not to teach people how to value stream map, if they have never done so before. If you're looking for additional information on the topic, you should consider the 3 preeminent references on the topic. These are Learning to See for most manufacturing value streams, the Completely in Enterprise for office and service value streams, and finally, Value Stream Mapping for Lean Development for product, software, and other development type value streams. All 3 delve more deeply into the mechanics of the value stream mapping tool and methodology. We highly recommend them. I wish you all the best in your continuous improvement endeavors. Goodbye.